when we look at the external research, for example, women in general are working primarily in informal markets. They are estranged from formal banking channels as a result. So UN Women, for example, reports that in South Asia, over 80% of women in non-agricultural jobs are in the informal sector. In sub-Saharan Africa, that's 74%. In Latin America, that's 54%. So we're talking about a very large population of women in the workforce. And this means that they can't get a meaningful loan for their business. That's because most commercial financial products require borrowers to have collateral, especially things like land titles. So often, even if women have access to land, they don't have ownership or control over it. Commercial banks are also less prone to make smaller loans due to administrative costs. Meanwhile, microfinance institutes have more success in offering the small loans, but their interest rates are very high. So both of these are unattractive in general to women entrepreneurs starting off. Village savings and loan associations have a better track record for smaller loans for women, but the amounts are often too small to start a business. So when we're looking at the micro, small, and medium enterprises, we're looking at a finance gap for women of around $1.7 trillion from data from the World Economic Forum. And this is pretty shocking. Additionally, women entrepreneurs are typically the caregivers within their families. So they're in charge of meals, they're in charge of schooling, they're in charge of healthcare needs, among other things. In the rural areas where IDE primarily focuses, they are also carrying out survival activities for the household. So collecting water, processing crops manually, preparing food. So women living in rural areas spend as much as 14 hours a day on unpaid care work, according to Oxfam. And they also cite that over 40% of women around the world are unable to work outside of the home because of their caregiving responsibilities. And I think even, women like myself who are in the US can relate to this challenge. So this also means that a lot of women are left outside of official counts, which also makes data on this topic difficult to be reliable. When women do emerge as entrepreneurs, they're often more at risk from external shocks. So we certainly saw this during COVID. According to the IFC, women in sub-Saharan Africa and small businesses reported they lost as much as 50% of their revenue during the pandemic. So as Liz mentioned, we did a large study last year. We wanted to do our own study at IDE to validate some of this literature and to understand what the communities want where we work. So we spoke to hundreds of individuals in 9 of the countries we work in and in all 3 of the continents where we work, and approximately 2/3 of those were women. We adapted a participatory evaluation method called Most Significant Change. Usually you ask folks, what was the most significant change you experienced during a project? But here we ask them, what's the most significant change they hope to achieve in the coming years? And then we analyzed that data for about 250 of those individuals that we spoke to. So by far, the lack of financial resources was the most commonly reported barrier. So this is lack of capital and access to capital to start or expand a business, investments in education or training, and even access to basic services like healthcare. On the healthcare side, respondents also talked about illnesses or health challenges that prevented them or other household members that they have to care for from doing productive activities and the high costs of healthcare. On the gender side, women shared specifically how they face discrimination in education and employment and access to resources, which is limiting their opportunities for growth, as well as environmental challenges that impact their crops, their livestock, and homes, and the ability to obtain a job. We also asked them a bit about markets, especially on the agriculture side, and they cited barriers around market access, affordability of inputs, product pricing. So we're using all this data now, this broad study of our clients' visions for their lives and needs to inform our own organizational strategy moving forward, in particular by looking at prosperity measured beyond income at the organizational key performance indicator level, that can get at ways to reduce these barriers and for clients to achieve their definitions of success.